it's Brittany Jackson, and today we're going to talk about advanced features in discussion forums. So I'm going to come down here to one of our already created discussion forums. So here I am in the Moodle playground, and I've got to click on the little editing button. It's red. Now I can see that I'm able to edit things. But I'm going to come down here and find a discussion forum. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here, I'm going to click edit and edit settings. So here we've got a testing forum. You must post once is the description. Currently the forum type is a Q&A. I'm going to change it over to standard forum for general use. And then under here, availability. So you can put in the due date just like you normally would and a cutoff date. Under attachments and word count, you can choose the maximum attachment size, which the course upload limit for both you and for the students is 50 megabytes. So anything larger than that, they won't be able to upload. And the maximum number of attachments. I only really want them to submit one, so we're just going to put one. And then display the word count, yes or no. If you're telling them they have to, post 250 words in their original response, then yeah, you'd probably want to be able to see that more easily. So I'm going to turn that on. Now, subscription and tracking, subscription mode. You've got optional subscription, for subscription, auto subscription, and subscription disabled. So they're just like they sound. So optional subscription is the default, so people can opt in to subscribe to the discussion forum. You can force them to be subscribed. It can be auto to whatever they've got already enabled in their profile, or subscription disabled, so nobody can subscribe to that particular subscription. I typically leave it as the optional subscription. And then retracking, I leave as optional. That's the default. Or you can turn it off so they can't tell if they've read it or not. Most of the time, it doesn't matter on your side whether they've read it, unless they're responding, in which case then you're going to see their response. So I tend to leave that as optional. Under discussion blocking, you can lock the discussion after certain periods of inactivity, and you can choose how long that inactivity needs to be. I tend to leave it as do not lock in discussions if they want to continue to have a discussion after the due date. I'm okay with that. And then if we put on threshold for blocking, it's a time period for blocking. So you can control the timing or the number of posts an individual student can make in a forum. The defaults don't block, but if I say 1 day, I can now get these other options. And post threshold blocking indicates the threshold for the number of posts a student can make during the designated time period. So, if I only want them to be able to make 1 post during that time period, so within a day, they can only post once a day. Or threshold for warning, you can indicate how many posts a student can make before they get a warning that they're approaching their limit. Defaults for both of these are 0, so I'm going to return that back because I don't typically do any threshold blocking. I've never had an issue with that in my courses. And then under whole form grading, you choose scale or point just like you would for regular grading. I typically tell people to leave whole form grading as none, though you can, of course, come down here, change the number of points, the grading method, simple grading guide or rubric, category, what category do you want it to be in, and then whether or not to notify students that they received it. I tend to tell people to leave this as none and to use the ratings. Here you can see who has the permission to rate. It's basically almost any role except a student. And the aggregate type says no ratings, average of ratings, count of ratings, maximum, minimum, or sum of ratings. So the average would average together whatever the points. So the count of rating allows you to score different posts separately and will add 1 point for each one. With only 1 point allowed for each of 3 posts, regardless of how many points you're awarded. The total points is 3, so 3 points are awarded. I tend to not do count of ratings. Maximum rating would be the maximum score awarded to any posting to the forum. So the maximum score is 4 points are awarded. Minimum rating, will award the minimum score awarded to any posts. And if the minimum score is 1 point, only 1 point will be awarded. I tend to choose this one, which is sum of rating. So sum of ratings will add up the score for each posting in that discussion forum. So I tend to put them at 10, and I tell students they have to post 1 original post, which is worth 6 points, and 2 responses to their peers. So they have to do a response to 2 different peers. So 2 extra posts, and each of those is then 2 points. So they get the total of 10 points, but the first one gives them the most points, and then the others complete out their points for that particular assignment. And then grade category, if we click on that, we can choose what category, if we've already got categories created in the gradebook, and we do in this case, we can choose discussion forums. You can always come back in if you didn't have it created in the gradebook, but you want to finish creating this particular assignment. You can always come back in after you've created a category and update this to be whatever category you want to put it in. Under common module settings, show it on the course page, hide it from students, make it available or not shown on course page. Defaults show on course page. If you're not quite ready to have the students see it, you can select and choose hide from students, and it'll stay hidden until you choose otherwise. Group mode, you can choose separate groups or visible groups. So if I choose separate groups, here we can do an auto-created groups, group presentation, wiki groups, whatever we've established as some of these. If we choose visible groups, it's the same thing. The difference between separate groups and visible groups is that separate groups can only see the postings of the members in their own groups. Visible groups means that they can only post to their own groups, but they can see the postings of all groups. So if you have them grouped, you can set it up so that they can only post and see in that one, or where they can see in that discussion forum and any discussion forum in that group, where they can see it even if they're not a part of a group, they can go and read what others have written in a separate group. Restrict access, you can always add restrictions. These, like always, are activity completion. They can't do it until a specific start date. By grade, if they had to earn a grade on another thing. By the group or groupings, if it's for an individual student, which discussion forums probably won't typically be, but it's a possibility. And then if you set any other restrictions. So if I set activity completion, for example, it's going to give me now this drop-down menu, and I can choose what they have to have completed in order to access this. So I can choose any of the assignments. You can see any of the assignments I've had in here. I want them to have to complete the super quiz, and it must be complete with a pass grade. You can have it be where they just mark it complete, or where it can't be marked as complete, or it has to be marked with complete for a fail grade. So you can set up some structures here depending on what you want to do. I'm going to leave it as must complete with a passing grade because I don't want them to be able to do it until then. And then activity completion. So students can manually mark is the default. Do not indicate activity completion as an option. Or you can show activity complete when conditions are met, and you can decide what those conditions are. So they have to view it, they have to have a grade, they have to have a certain number of posts, discussions, replies, or an expected complete date. So you can set any of those up. And then tags, you can enter in specific tags, competencies. I tend to leave the defaults because for the most part we aren't using competencies, and tags aren't required in what we do most of the time. So once I go ahead and hit save and return to course, you see that because I had two things that weren't meshing, I have to change one of these. I'm going to go back to manually marking students as completed. So under here, you can see it says you must select an activity with require grade completion condition set. So I've got to come down here and require grade. I use the rating one, and now I should be able to hit save and return to course. So here I am back out on the Moodle playground. If I come down here and look at testing forum, because that's what we had put in, you can see here it's grayed out and it's not available unless they've marked the super quiz as complete. So they won't be able to do anything with it until that particular thing has been done. And once it is, then they're able to go in and respond to the testing. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. We're here to help, and we're in the library. And as always, happy Moodling.